Welcome to In the Cool of the Day. Our focus for today is standing on the promises of God, no matter what. We're going to examine this thought through the life and works of one of our former guests. She is an author, a coach, and a public speaker. She is also a mom, and most importantly, a woman who loves God with all her heart. Please welcome returning guest, Miss Malika S. Carey-Jordan, author of Now That I Know Better. Malika, how are you today?
I'm great.
Good.
Thank you
It's so
for
good
having
to
me
see you.
back. I
Yes,
love being
thank you
here.
for coming.
I love it.
You have been so busy. I heard a little rumor that you recently had a book. What is it? Book opening.
Well, yes,
yes. Tell us a little bit
yes.
about that.
So we opened at one of the Christian bookstores in our neighborhood, John 3:16. It was a privilege to be there and to meet the public, because the book has been out for a minute, but it hasn't been publicly displayed.
Okay.
So now it's in a public viewing audience for people to go in and buy it, and I'm really excited about where God is starting to move it to. It's also now in my church. It's the City of Praise Family Ministries bookstore. I have to give them a shout out for all the love that Bishop Joel and Pastor Yolanda Peoples share on me all the time.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
wonderful.
And I feel privileged to be able to display the book there, and people are buying it there as well. So,
Oh, good. So you got a chance to talk to the number of people that were coming into the bookstore.
Definitely.
Oh, that's great.
Definitely.
That's fantastic.
Definitely.
Well, I got a lot of questions for you today, so we're going to get started.
I am ready.
Tell us what actually motivated you to write the book.
Well, I was trying to write another book as they were going. I just had some serious writer's block. It was very difficult to write this story, but eventually I will get it out. But I was on Metro one day, and I said, God, I need a book. I need something easy to write, and I need to help me out. I need a title, everything. That day I went to work, and I was speaking with a coworker, and she was actually going through a storm, as most of our life experiences happen. And I was reminded of my mother's words. Now, I hear that Maya Angelou coined the phrase, but it was my mother I heard it from first. So I'm going to go with Sandra's wisdom and say, when you know better, you can do better. Yeah. And so that was it. Like an epiphany happened, and we was like, I said, oh, that's the book title.
Isn't that something?
Now That I Know Better. I wrote it down, and after that, the outline came and the chapter titles, and we worked it a couple of times and wrote it.
You know, you said something earlier when you spoke about writer's block. I've heard people use that term before, but they had different meanings. Like one person said, oh, I just didn't feel like doing it, so I had a writer's block. But is that what a writer's block really is? What was a writer's block for you?
No, a writer's block is you really ready to write, and either the pages or the story you're trying to tell is difficult to express, or the words in which you want to convey the block.
They're not there.
They're not there.
Yeah.
And then Bishop Joel put a spin on it last week. He said, when you have writer's block, that's those moments where only God can tell that story the right way. So you have to wait until you hear from your inner self. Right. And so sometimes you got to get still. Right. You hear writers going away to isolated places to drown out the noise.
Well, you know, I started reading the book a second time after you had agreed to come on.
Oh, that's
so I mean, the chapters are, they're different than most chapters. I mean, you can look at the chapter and you can feel like that chapter, just the title of the chapter is speaking to you. Now, you have a chapter that talks about mistakes that were your best teacher. Right. Talk a little bit about, mistakes that you have made and it ended up being the best guide that you could have.
That ever happened, right? Yeah. So I think that we don't know we've made a mistake until it causes a little bit of pain.
Right. That's true. That is true.
And then we learn from that experience. Some of us learn faster than others, and some of them, I just had an instance recently where I had to really do some self-examination because I was making some choices that were causing pain. But what the good thing was...
Pain to you or pain to others?
Pain to me.
Both of the above?
Or pain to me.
Pain to you.
Pain to me. That's how we know it's a mistake, because if it causes us pain,
then we get it.
Right, then we get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can be the afflictors of pain and not really understand it. You know, sometimes I liken it to the rapist who said, well, it was her fault. She had the short skirt on. He's not processing that he inflicted pain upon somebody. He violated somebody. And then he places the blame on the person he or she attacked. You know what I'm saying? Or you caused me to yell at you, or you made me do something offensive to you. Sometimes when we afflict pain, we don't understand that we're hurting the people that we're hurting. So we don't think that's a mistake. It is, because what happens from that is either that person leaves, or in some cases, you know, from what the news tells us, you might get shot.
Right.
You know, or, I mean, the violence is the cause and reaction of somebody's pain just going on steroids.
Right. So we're not willing to take the responsibility for that, whatever we inflict upon somebody else.
Right, right. But when the pain is done to us, it causes us to do a self-evaluation. Those that are smart, those that are, well, I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence to say whether they're smart or not, but those that are aware of their situation begin to recognize. And that's why I wrote Now That I Know Better, because it's about being able to recognize when you're in a lesson and see what that lesson is and do the evaluation. You know, life is a classroom. You gotta study. You're gonna take a test.
And the Bible even has a scripture about that, studying to show yourself approved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's answers. I do believe the Bible is the best book ever written to man, because I believe that the scriptures say there's nothing new under the sun. We've just got a modern spin on it.
Right.
But everything existed just like it existed before Jesus was here. You know, in the beginning of time, there was. And the first sin ever committed was the murder of Cain and Abel. So there's always been civil and robbery. There's always been adultery. There's always been homosexuality. I mean, God put it all in the book, right? So what I did was take some of the lessons I got out of the book, applied them to my life.
So now, was the book intended to just be for you, or did you also intend for other people to be able to pull something from that?
I think at first my initial writing was for me to heal. There's a lot of authors that write their first book, especially those that write self-help books. And it was funny, someone read the book and their comment was, this is the best biographical self-help book. I didn't mean it to write it as a self-help book, but I just told my story. And as I told my story, it unfolded. And people wrote back and said, hey, this helped me reflect on this situation in my life, or it helped me reflect on that situation in my life.
So people are writing you back and they're making comments.
Right.
Have you had some people to write back and they didn't like it, or was it too hard for them?
I don't know. I was on Amazon one day and somebody named Soupy, whoever that person may be.
Stupid?
No, I didn't say
Is that what they call them?
Although I did not like their comment. I thought that comment was stupid, but their name was Soupy.
Soupy, okay.
And they said that it was hard to read and something other than that. But you know, you're going to get negative press. I'm trying to learn not to take the negative press personal. You know, people are always going to have their opinions. And so I have to respect their opinions. You know, it made me go back and look at some pages again and say, okay, let's make it easier to read. So actually, this book is actually an addition, a better addition than the first book that came out, because we made it a little easier to read.
Malika, what is your favorite chapter in the book?
I have two.
Okay. We got time. You can tell us about the two favorite chapters.
My first one is Laugh More Than You Cry.
Laugh more than you cry.
Laugh more than you cry. Yeah. Life can be rough sometimes, and we get dealt some very hard blows, and they really do make us cry. And while crying is good, because it cleanses the soul, sometimes if we stay there too long, it breeds depression and grief and a lot of different things that cause us to self-destruct. Yeah. But I find that when we begin to laugh, we begin to heal. You know, like we said, the Bible tells us, you know, laughter is medicine to the soul.
Yeah.
So God wants us to laugh. He wants us to be happy, you know, and I write the details of the passings of some very close loved ones of mine.
Yes.
My grandmother, my uncles, they were my life. They were my mentors, my battle fighters. And then we had to rewrite my chapter because right in the middle, after the book was published, I lost my dad.
Oh.
And so that grief was unreal because unlike losing my uncles and my grandmother, this is the first time I lost a parent.
Yeah, that's a difference.
And I love my dad.
Yeah.
I do. And my book is dedicated to my dad.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I was his angel. And now it was gone. But then my mom reminded me some things. She said, number one, when a person dies, you don't have to die with them. Meaning my soul doesn't have to keep weeping and mourning their loss. So as we come up on the second anniversary of my dad's passing, I was determined that I'm not gonna grieve his going away.
Yes.
I know I'm gonna see him again on the other side when I finish living my life.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
And then the second.
And then my second chapter is love does come around again. So once we go through the broken heart process and we heal and forgive ourselves and forgive the people that disappointed us, then we open ourselves up. And I tell about 2 or 3 different stories of friends I know who've gone through some tumultuous relationships only to have it turn around to their favor, and then they have wonderful husbands. And
So that particular chapter is dealing with relationships between 2 people.
Right.
Okay. All
Right.
right. Okay.
Right.
And so that is very interesting because both of those situations can be very traumatic to people.
Very.
And some people are never able to move from that place of grief.
Ever.
Yeah.
They stay stuck
Yeah, I
there.
know some people, they've been grieving for, I don't know how long.
I know some people who are grieving 40 years, 50
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and what they do through that, they self-destruct.
Yeah.
They start destroying themselves.
And then people around them.
And the people around them.
Yeah,
We hurt people,
Right.
and it's sad.
That's true. That
you
is
know.
sad. Well, we are going to take a short station break, but we will be right back with our special guest, Malika S. Carey-Jordan. So, don't touch that dial. Welcome back as we continue our discussion with author, coach, and speaker, Malika S. Carey-Jordan. Malika, prior to the break, we were talking about your love chapter. I wondered if you could go a little bit more into that because there are so many people that are dealing with love issues, and sometimes it is with the relationship issue between a man and a woman. But I've met people, especially seniors, who are dealing with the lack of love issues from when they were children, or at least that's in their mind that and it looks like it's pushing them into Alzheimer's and dementia because they're dealing with those issues that happened 50, 60, 70 years ago. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me to go back there because even for myself, I was the queen of broken hearts. And I was just having a conversation with my mom today about attracting dysfunction. And a lot of times it does stem from our childhood and issues that we don't deal with. We pattern the lives we see in our homes. And if our home patterns with dysfunction, if we saw our parents argue all the time, or if vice versa, if we saw our parents love each other all the time, you know, so the Cliff and Claire Huxtable relationships do exist, you know, and you see that those children that grew up in those homes tend to have more healthier relationships than those that grow up in broken homes or where divorce was a case or a parent left or and sometimes you do marry the right mate and they die. You know, that's happened. You know, I know a couple of people who have married right in my own family. You know, when I found out my aunt was just 27 when my uncle passed and left with 2 children.
Yeah, that's
You know,
hard.
it took her a very long time
Yeah.
to start dating again, you know.
Right.
And then I also, if she ever started dating again, I don't know, but I know people who get broken hearts, especially in the church.
Yeah.
Girl, I don't
That's
need nobody
another-
but Jesus.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they're so broken that they don't even believe that they can receive love again because they've been hurt. That guy walked out. That woman walked out.
Right.
And now they are just content. I don't need nobody but Jesus. But we were all created to have a companion and to want to be loved and to give love.
Right.
So once our hearts have been broken, we get trust issues, abandonment issues, and then we pull up the walls and we're afraid to love. And we're afraid if we're attracted to somebody, how to express ourselves.
And are there situations where people come together in relationships and they just change?
Right.
They just change.
Right.
Maybe it was right and good when they got together, but they just change.
Well, because life happens to them,
Yeah.
you know, and so you're always evolving, and you're going to evolve one way or the other. So you can evolve good, you know, or you can evolve bad. And then sometimes you get instances where people put on facades to
That's
get what they want, and once they get it, the real them comes out.
Like,
You know, right? Where'd you come from? And then I like the way what my bishop says. He says, time weeds out all deception.
Yeah.
You give it enough time. And a lot of times we're so anxious. I know even personally for me, I've had my moments of desperation where I've let people in my life that weren't necessarily good for me. You know, let me talk about me, because that's the best way to give an example. Sure. And like I said in my book, use my life as an example to reflect upon your life. And if my mistakes affect your life, learn from them.
Yes.
You know, so my mistake was sometimes I would just be so tired of being by myself that I would welcome not the best people. Right. And so I'm learning, I had to learn, and I'm still learning how to be patient.
I think we all are learning about that patient thing.
Right. We can avoid a lot of mistakes if we just
to
be patient,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And my mom would say, well, you got to trust God on this. And the ones with my friends is the minute they got settled with the Lord and just say, you know what, I'm going to be at peace with myself, by myself. Then the door opened up and they found the real love. The minute they began to heal, then the person that they were supposed to be with came into their lives. You know, people are like, I didn't mean to get divorced. Well, it happens to the best of us. Doesn't mean it's the end of the road for you. You do the process. You know, I give some steps in the book. You know, you do the process, then the person you're looking for will be there. The love you want is seeking you. Right. But you've got to want it, and you've got to want to do the work.
I have heard a lot of good and bad things about authors who try to self-publish. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you're a self-published author, right?
Yes.
Okay. What is that process like from your perspective?
Well, first I was shopping for a publisher, and a lot of publishers and printing companies charge a lot of upfront money. Because if you're not the big house publishers, like what T. Jakes use or Joyce Meyers or something like that, where they're advanced money because they know as soon as that book hits the bookshelf, it's going to sell 1 million copies. It's going to be a New York Times bestseller the day it hits the market. And you're an independent unknown, the big houses, they won't deal with you no matter how good or bad your book is. Even the Christian ones. And so now the big boys have created sub-publishers that'll say, hey, we'll publish your book. You pay us $1,800 or you pay us $1,200. So now you're paying for your book to be produced out of your pocket. And then you may not get all the marketing channels they promise you, or you may not have control of your book anymore, like they own the rights to it.
So are you selling your rights over to them to publish
In some cases, I would always say read the contract.
Yeah.
Read the contract, you know.
That's horrible.
It is. You make sure that if you're going to go through a printing publisher, that you maintain your copyright.
Okay.
That's the best advice I could ever give.
So you probably need to have your own lawyer or legal professional.
Your own legal
working with
professional
you.
helping you navigate those waters. I would also tell whatever manuscript you release to anybody, before you release it, go to the copyright.gov and copyright your material. Right.
Now, I know that you are a woman of God. So when things get rough for you, is there one particular scripture or several scriptures that keep you centered and focused and moving forward?
There's several different scriptures I need. Sometimes I just gotta say, peace, be still.
Right.
Right. You know,
is that when stuff is really just one thing after another before you can take a breath
all
from
hell
this one
breaks
thing,
loose and the storm, the rage, the water, the rage, the storm is, the wind is blowing, the rain is pouring down on your face. Sometimes you got to stand on the bow of your boat and say, peace, be still. Yeah. You know, I also, in situations where I've had loss, you know, foreclosure hit a lot of people hard, you know, I had to say, but God shall supply my need according to his riches and glory.
And he did.
And he did. He's carried me along the way. Am I where I want to be? Not yet, but I'm not where I used to be. And I'm privileged to be able to say, you know, he kept me in that storm. You know, I've spoken to women, a lot of women who've had to go to shelters, and I thank God I didn't have to have that experience to traumatize my kids in that type of situation. And so.
How old are your kids now?
The babies are 6 and 9. Okay. And then I have a 16-year-old, or soon to be 16. Okay. And I have a 28-year-old, and I have 2 godchildren who are amazing. They're in their 30s. And
30s, wow.
Right. And then from them, I have a slew of grandchildren, but we welcomed my first natural grandchild into the world last year.
Oh, wonderful.
And
That's
so
wonderful.
I'm really happy about
that.
Right.
Now, you are also, you know, a businesswoman. You do counseling, you do all sorts of things. And sometimes this can be a very greedy and heartless world. Mm-hmm. What do you say to women who are ready to, you know, take that step into entrepreneurship, but they're a little frightened because they can't see the end?
Right.
And they're afraid to take those steps.
First, everything before you pray. Be led by the Spirit, you know. Be fair and be honest and work with integrity. But I also say network with like-minded people. It's hard to tell somebody who's had a job all their lives, even if they like their job, that you're going to step out on your own, you're going to not have any benefits, and you're going to start your own business. They're going to look at you and tell you you're 5 ways crazy. Yeah. Right? It's hard to be an entrepreneur. Even in this day and time with all the success stories of being an entrepreneur, when you're just starting out, people are laughing at you. People laughed at Bill Gates. Yeah. You know, people laughed at Mark Zuckerberg. Right. You know, people are going to laugh. People are going to laugh at you. And you've got to know they're going to talk about you. You got to know that your dream is your dream and have your why. And then I would say connect with people who are driven in the way you are driven. Right. So I've connected with some very wonderful people. One of my brothers has his own business, Smart Innovation Concepts. And he mentors he calls them smartpreneurs. And so he mentors people via Facebook, you know. And so I chime in because I get my words of wisdom from my little brother, who is an entrepreneur since he graduated from high school. Wow. You know.
It's in him. It's in the blood.
It's in the blood. My father was an entrepreneur. I've got his DNA. Yeah. My father never worked for anybody but himself. Right. And so it's in my DNA. My twin brother as well has started his own mental health business. Wow. And he's a CEO in New Jersey of a mental health organization. And so we're entrepreneurs.
I didn't realize you had a twin brother. So that's another story. You got to
That's
come
another
back and
story
we got to
I'll
talk
tell you.
about.
We'll talk
what it's
about
like-
that. We'll talk about
what is that like
Right.
to grow up with a
Right.
twin?
I got some stories for you.
Well, we are just about out of time, but if you could just quickly sum up how you balance your work, your family, and your love for God and for the things that God is calling you to do.
Like I say, in any interview, you got to prioritize, and then you got to avoid the distractions.
Right.
And sometimes I got ADHD. I'm easily distracted. And then as too soon, I bump my head and I make a mistake, and I say, we got to get this back in line.
Right.
So I say, be in tune to the Spirit, and be in tune to when things start going turbulent in your life. That's a sign that you got to stop, pause, and get things back in order.
Right.
Right.
Malika, thank you so much. This has been really inspiring, and I'm wishing the very best for the book.
Thank you so
now
much.
that you know better.
Now that I know better.
Now that you know better, we got to do better.
We got to do better. Right.
We hope that you have been inspired by the testimonies of author Malika S. Carey-Jordan. Let me encourage you to continue to trust God and never give up on your dreams. Stay the course and believe God. Thank you for watching In the Cool of the Day. Have a safe and peaceful week. Bye-bye.